The Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm Bret, Kepner, and in just a minute, the biggest battle of monsters since Godzilla took on King Kong is about to take place. The defending world monster truck champion, Bret in Barefoot, will take on the man who finished number 2 in the world last year, Jack Wilman in Taurus, in an all-star field headed by these two killers.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kris Chapman in the Spectrum. In a moment, college professor turned truck puller Wayne Rouse will take on a field of 12 of America's finest two-wheel drive truck pullers.
Association presents the ultimate from the wide world of motorsport, Super Trax.
Welcome, everybody, to the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts. We are just a moment away from starting qualifying for a rather unusual USHRA Association Camel Monster Truck Showdown. A very, very short course. Only 120 feet in distance in a battle that will require a driver's reaction times to be absolutely perfect. The very first machine coming out to qualify, New Jersey veteran Mike Wine in the Outlaw Ford, sponsored by Super Winch, will be up against the clock on this shortened course to determine qualifying position. As always, the Centrum event is one of the biggest and best on the USHRA Association trail, drawing the top competitors in the monster truck battle for the Camel World Championship in 1991. Including, of course, the truck that finished number 2 in the world last year, Jack Wilman in Taurus. Meanwhile, Wilman, of course, will be looking to improve on last season's number 2 in the world finish. The supercharged, fuel-injected, methanol-burning Chevrolet has always been one of the highest horsepower trucks in monster truck racing. Wilman stages up, signals that he is ready. He'll take the first qualifying run. Beautiful airborne leap. The lap time for the Taurus Chevy, 2.22 seconds, and that will set the pace here in qualifying. Back on the starting line, Mike Wine gets ready with the supercharged Ford. Not the most violent of starting line launches, certainly plenty of air over the cars. The elapsed time, 0.6 of a second slower than the Taurus machine. 2.82 seconds for Mike Wine's Jersey Outlaw. That will bring out the Breen Brothers entry, the Whiskey Business Chevrolet from Missouri, with Ken Duffy behind the wheel. Duffy, a relative newcomer to the USHRA Association trail, but with a truck that has more than enough power. He will be up against probably the most powerful truck in the history of this sport. The truck that, regardless of its power, had a driver strong enough to win the 1990 USHRA Association Camel World Championship, Bret in Barefoot. The Tonka-sponsored Illinois-based Chevrolet certainly will be attempting to better the 2.22-second run put down by Schaefer's absolute arch rival, Jack Wilman in the Taurus machine. An incredible flight. Bret returns to Earth. The elapsed time, 1.97 seconds. Number 1 qualifier by a quarter of a second as Ken Duffy lines up in the far lane. The newcomer from Missouri waits patiently for the green light to shine. It will take everything the rear-engine Chevrolet can muster to keep pace with the top two. A bizarre landing, but actually an exceptional run, 2.79 seconds. That'll end up placing Duffy number 4 in this field at this point.
Now it's time for another Crunch of the Week. During side-by-side eliminations last year, Dennis Anderson, the driver of the Gravedigger who never gives up a fight, nosedive, colliding with the equalizer. On the replay, you can see Gravedigger is out of control. Although both machines suffered costly damage, both drivers walked away unscathed. And And that's this week's Brunch of the Week.
Super Trax will be right back with more extreme motorsports action. Don't go away. We're back in Worcester, Massachusetts at the Centrum as we continue qualifying for this USHRA Association Monster Truck Showdown. And here comes the crowd favorite. The monster truck that has won this event the last 2 years in a row. It's Jim Kramer at the wheel of the incredible Bigfoot Ford. With Barefoot leading qualifying. Look at the next machine pulling out as the crowd goes crazy. It's the first New England appearance ever of the USHRA Association 12 for Dennis Anderson and the incredible Gravedigger. 1.97 seconds. The Barefoot Chevy's pole. Only one machine has gone under 2 seconds flat. But I don't think there's any question that you're looking at two machines that have the power of putting down those kind of numbers. The rear-engine Chevy from Kill Devil Hills, North Carolina. The wild man of monster trucks behind the wheel. Unbelievable flight for Dennis Henderson. Straight up and down just before the finish line. The elapsed time, 2.25 seconds. But had the front end been extended as if the truck was horizontal, the lap time would have been better than that. It'll put him right now number 3 in the field. Jim Kramer on the line and ready. Another incredible flight. Kramer lands it with an elapsed time of 2.26 seconds. 1/100th of a second slower than the Gravedigger Chevrolet. If these drivers insist on getting that kind of air here at the Centrum, we are going to have some wild side-by-side racing. In such a short course, as we pointed out, the reaction time is all important, but with the dirt ramps in front of the crush cars as steep as they are, these guys are going to be sending themselves towards the moon if they put too much power down off the starting line. Coming up, one of the winningest drivers of this 1991 season. We call him the working class hero, the unsponsored first blood Ford of Rob Fuchs. Moves it up against John Breen and the Micro Machines Chevrolet. The Missouri campaigner backs it up at the starting line in the near lane. While Rob Fuchs is always tough with the first blood Ford. The immaculate new Chevrolet product making its Eastern Seaboard debut at this event. Rob Fuchs clears the tachometer in the first blood Ford as Breen moves up the stage first. He's ready. I don't think the handling problems were caused by anything going on in the cockpit. It looked as if the machine did not have front-wheel drive when it left the starting line. There may be breakage in the front differential of that machine. We'll have to wait and see the elapsed time for the Micro Machine entry, 2.84 seconds, coming, of course, nearly to a stop at the finish line. Rob Fuchs now moves up with the first blood Ford. The Woodstock, Illinois veteran with the supercharged Ford wedge motor under the hood of the all-steel body waits for his green light. A violent launch and an equally violent landing. Rob Fuchs stops the clocks at 2.24 seconds. He'll move into the number 3 spot ahead of Gravedigger and Bigfoot. The unsponsored independent is still as wild as ever. But along with side-by-side monster truck eliminations, we've got championship supercharged two-wheel drive pulling action. We're in the Spectrum Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, getting ready for championship two-wheel drive pulling action. The USHRA Association's Red Band Tour. This wild brand of supercharged machines is ready to kick off action in their first round of pulling. The weight transfer machine or pulling sled that each vehicle will hook up to set at a starting weight of 40,000 static pounds. The objective in this sport to pull that 40,000-pound mountain of metal as far as possible on a 135-foot distance track. And remember, anybody that makes it past that 135-foot distance is awarded a full pull in the number 1 spot. Here's the tough cookie Chevrolet F10 of Wayne Sullivan from Kentucky. Sullivan finally digs in within inches of the finish line. We'll have to wait for the numbers on this one. It is ridiculously close. And here's the measurement. 134 feet, 10 inches on a 135-foot track. 2 inches short of a full pull on the very first run down the course. The next machine backing up to the starting line area. Jeff McPherson out of Circleville, Ohio, the son of longtime campaigner Dick McPherson, with his Bean Bandit 1990 Ford Ranger. The McPherson family has been involved in USHRA Association pulling competition since the original Circuit of Champions was incepted back in 1974. Now, with the second-generation driver behind the wheel, the ground crew connects the high-tensile strength steel chain that will connect the vehicle with the sled. Now he's hooking up the kill switch, which, in fact, as an extra margin of safety, will shut down all electrical functions on the vehicle if, indeed, it should become separated from the sled. The young McPherson entry. RPM's up, takes the green light of the green flag, and eases 40,000 pounds off the line. Wheels up, the way the two-wheel drive machine should be, just grazing the ground, but McPherson digs in about 5 feet shy of the finish line. As soon as that weight transfer box reaches its apex at the front of the sled, that 40,000 pounds feels like about 120,000 pounds to the machine, and it starts spinning the tires 130 feet, 2 inches the distance for Jeff McPherson. Here is the first of 2 entries that are by far campaigned by the strongest driver in this category. This is Wayne Roush, the school teacher turned puller that Chris Chapman told you about earlier, from Dublin, Ohio. The little red truck is a Dodge Ram pickup utilizing a supercharged, fuel-injected JP1 aluminum Chrysler Hemi engine designed and created by Joe Paisano in Southern California. Roush, never one to look like a professional puller, stares intently down the track, waiting for the flagman to give him the green flag that the track is clear, and he'll begin the pull. RPM's up, and now 2,000 horsepower is unleashed. The front end starts bouncing, and an incredible upset in this sport. Roush gets stuck at the 120-foot, 5-inch marker. The number 1 spot, still 134 feet, 10 inches by Wayne Sullivan's Tough Cookie Chevy. And here's another gorgeous F10, the heartbreaker of Grady Barr from Baltimore, Maryland. This machine could win any custom car and truck show in the country. Another machine utilizing the JP1 aluminum Chrysler Hemi. Barr's entry may wear Chevrolet skin, but that's all Mopar beating underneath the hood. Hooked and ready. Now, with the track clear, the starter will throw the green flag, reflected on the green light coming on top of the weight transfer machine. Here goes the heartbreaker. Great pull, wheels up, but he digs in short of the finish again. 129 feet, 8.5 inches, within 6 feet of a full pull. But right now we'll settle for the number 2 spot. The Pennsylvania driver unhooks and takes the heartbreaker back to the sideline. You'll notice these machines bear a striking resemblance to drag racing vehicles, not only in their equipment, but also in the driver's safety apparel. These guys are fully dressed for battle nowadays. A Nomex sock over the head, a 7-layer fire suit, fire boots, fire gloves, a helmet, and, of course, the mandatory roll cages and shoulder harnesses. Meanwhile, backing up to the starting line, the Good and Plenty entry. Butch Lepley out of Myersdale, Pennsylvania. Another show-stopping entry. This one wearing 1990 Ford Ranger body panels. So far, the track has proven itself to be rather loose. In other words, the drivers appear to be easing that 40,000-pound weight off the starting line and then applying full throttle well down the racetrack. It's a touchy situation. Too much or too little throttle off the line. The wheels start coming up for Butch Lepley, but he will dig in short of the mark by inches. 133 feet, 10 inches. Unbelievable. 2 feet, 2 inches away from not only the #1 spot, but the first full pull of the event. So Wayne Sullivan's very first pull in the Tough Cookie F10 Chevy leads the field.
On September 28th and 29th, come to the Oklahoma State Fairgrounds in Oklahoma City for United States Hot Rod Association's super modified mud racers and monster trucks. And October 19th, come to the Pontiac Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan for United States Hot Rod Association Championship Pulling Competition.
Super Trax will be right back with more extreme motorsports action. Don't go away. We're back at the Centrum in Philadelphia, continuing two-wheel drive, supercharged U.S. Hobbit Association Championship pulling action. You want to see a showstopper? Take a look at this incredible ride. A 1938 Chevrolet stake bed, literally all original, campaigned by Dave Shoemaker out of Stanley, New York. This has to be one of the most astounding visual pieces we've seen in many years on the U.S. Hobbit Association National Pulling Trail. In the two-wheel drive class, the teams are allowed to supercharge and use fuel injection on their engines. However, as is pretty obvious, you can see that power can only be directed to the two rear wheels. The original 38 Chevrolet hook and get ready. Tire spin for Shoemaker, but now the front end starts to come up. And bucking all over the track, the machine finally digs in at the 120-foot marker. 120 foot, 1 inch to be exact. But still, the crowd shows its approval for the immaculate 38 Chevrolet. Sullivan out of Warsaw, Kentucky, and the Mini Brute now backing up to the starting line. One thing you can't question is the astounding beauty of most of the machines in competition here at the Centrum. The 1990 Chevy F10, sponsored by the Sullivan family racing effort, moves up on the starting line and hooks. The green light comes on, and here's the Mini Brute's attempt to crack that 135-foot finish line with 40,000 pounds in tow. Straining against the ever-increasing weight, a tremendous pull for the Mini Brute. Maybe even with a little engine damage from the right bank of cylinders there as he shuts the engine down. Sullivan so close, yet so far. 131 feet, 10 inches, within 4 feet of a full pull. But here comes a brand new piece of equipment that is sure to gain some interest from the fans. Randy Brown from Camden, North Carolina, and the brand new Bud Dry Sweet Fang number 3. An extended wheelbase 1923 Ford Model T Roadster with the vast majority of the engine's bulk hanging way out near the front axle, trying to keep the nose at a level attitude during the pull down this 135-foot track. The ground crew connects the machine to the 40,000-pound weight transfer machine. Supercharged, fuel-injected Chevrolet power here in the 1923 Ford. ground like he had hoped with the brand new machine. Unfortunately, the distance is far less than he was looking for. 120 feet, 2 1/2 inches. But with the exposed driver configuration, the fan gets double the show with this incredible new ride. Wayne Sullivan's Tough Cookie Chevy S10 is hanging on to the lead with a run 2 inches short of a full pull. But here's a guy that can unload some big numbers with a brand new piece of equipment. From Circleville, Ohio, a veteran of more than 15 years on the USHRA Association pulling trail with his brand new drag racing influence 1923 Ford T Roadster. This is Dick McPherson's new Missouri Raiders supercharged Chevy entry. An astounding piece of engineering in one of its first competitive outings. The front end starts to head for the moon, and that unloads the rear tires, and Dick McPherson surprisingly will dig in at right at the 125-foot marker. 124.9 as a matter of fact, and even McPherson seems surprised at that one. So still, Wayne Sullivan's Tough Cookie Chevy S10 leads this two-wheel drive competition. But we still have Wayne Roush's second entry to go and championship monster truck action. Stay with us. Back of the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts, as we get ready for the first round of side-by-side competition here in the USHRA Association Monster Truck Showdown. But take a look at the way the pairings ended up after qualifying. In the very first race of the very first round, number 1 versus number 5. Barefoot versus Bigfoot. The ultimate Ford versus Chevrolet matchup with the defending world champion in the Chevy. Checking the starting line, traction, and Jim Kramer, the ultimate monster truck pilot, lining up Bigfoot in the far lane. Despite the fact that there was only 29 hundredths of a second between the two machines in qualifying, it was the difference of the first 5 positions. And under the USHRA Association rules, the number 5 man has to face the number 1 qualifier in the opening round. Certainly, Jim Kramer has to be concerned about that quarter-second difference from qualifying. And he now has to make it up somewhere on this relatively short course. Remember, driver reaction is all important. They leave the line together. Bigfoot out in front. Unbelievable nosedive at the finish line. And an upset of the number 1 qualifier to boot. Jim Kramer rides out one of the wildest landings we've seen this year, and the world champion is history in round 1. Take a look at this landing. Absolutely incredible. Mike Wyatt and the Jersey Outlaw and Rob Fuchs in the First Blood Fords pull to the starting line, and they're going to have to go a long way to give the crowd more excitement than they just got at the opening pairing. Here's the number 3 qualifier in the red Ford in the far lane. Mike Wine had his problems during the qualifying round, ended up in number 7 spot in this 8-truck field. Both drivers taking their time lining up properly. Mike Wine actually moving up onto the crush cars and allowing Fred Schaefer to head back into the pit area. Now he'll back up behind the starting line and get ready for his first round matchup. The Super Wing-sponsored Ford in the near lane. And this young man, the 1989 USHRA Association Camel Rookie of the Year, ready to do battle. Again, the driver who gets the advantage off the starting line when the green light comes on will have a distinct advantage in this short course run. Finally, the New Jersey campaigner moves up the stage, and they are ready. Mike Wine's Outlaw sounding bad on the starting line. He may have some kind of mechanical problem cropping up. He clears the throttle a couple of times, but it doesn't sound much better. No question, Wine is trying to figure out what is wrong with the power plant in the Outlaw. He can only hope that Fuchs makes a grave error here and hands him the win. Mike Wine signals he is not ready to go. He's busy looking at gauges inside that cockpit. He knows there is something drastically wrong. And now the crew heads up to refire a stalled engine. Now, amazingly, Rob Fuchs has shut his engine down in the far lane. Under USHRA Association rules, Fuchs could stage up and demand after 25 seconds that he indeed be given a single run. But Fuchs has shut the engine down and says he'll wait for Mike Wine to get his problem fixed. He said if he's going to win the race, he's going to beat somebody in the other lane to do it. And Mike Wine's machine has apparently lost fire again. And regardless of the sportsmanship shown by Rob Fuchs, it looks like the First Blood machine may be getting a solo run. The crews have the Outlaw refired, but based on what it's gone through just in the last minute or so here on the starting line, chances are it won't stay running for very long. We'll have to wait and see. Fuchs still refuses to give up. He is going to give Mike Wine as much time as it takes to make his run. They're both running. I can't say for how long, but they're ready. Leaves the line and sends her airborne for an easy victory. Mike Wine's machine never got to leave the line under its own power. But one thing's for sure. Rookie of the year in '89, a top 10 finisher in the Camel World Championship last year, Rob Fuchs in that one round of competition showed his sportsmanship as much as anybody ever has on the Camel Tour. Will bring up John Green's Micro Machine Chevrolet. Although he had some pretty radical problems during qualifying, ending up in the number 8 spot. The Missouri campaigner has proven repeatedly over the years in open competition events that he could run with the best of them at any given event. But let's face it, he's got a tough road to hoe in this one. Dennis Anderson's incredible Gravedigger 1950 Chevrolet panel truck will be his opponent, the number 4 qualifier in the near lane. You saw Anderson put the mighty green machine sky high during the qualifying round. Fred Schaefer in the background watching the other machines as they battle in eliminations. Always one to keep an eye on the toughest opponents, and you can bet the world champ, now that he's out of the show, has got to be wondering who's going to come away with the title here at Worcester. Both trucks now ready. Both drivers intently focused on the green light located at the finish line. The Gravedigger, although John Green had a great run in the Micro Machine Chevrolet, it was nowhere near enough to make up the disadvantage he earned by leaving the starting line late. The crowd loves every minute of it, though, when the Gravedigger is victorious, and Anderson will go to the semi-final round. The final pair, in the meantime, pulls out onto the racing surface. The Whiskey Business rear-engine Chevrolet machine, owned by the Breen Brothers racing team and driven by Ken Geppe, pulls up to take on the truck that finished number 2 in the world last year, Jack Willman Jr. at the wheel of the Taurus Chevrolet. Once again, both drivers taking their time, lining up originally. Now, as they move into stage, it's simply a matter of positioning the trucks on the starting line and waiting for the green light start. The tube chassis, supercharged, 572 cubic inch Chevrolet is without a doubt one of the toughest in the sport. While the Whiskey business machine with a rear engine configuration in the chassis, not unlike the Gravedigger, is a relatively unknown quantity. They leave the line, but it's all Taurus at the finish line. Ken Deppy again, a great job into the wall in the far lane. Deppy could not slow the machine in time, and he taps the retainer at a fairly good clip, but no serious damage noticeable on the front end of the Missouri Chevrolet. But in any case, the Taurus Chevrolet advances to the semifinal round. Jack Wilman has got to be happy just surviving the first round of this unusual short course duel. As Ken Deppy heads back to the pit area, proudly waving his support of the POW MIA group, it will be Bigfoot versus First Blood in an all-Ford battle, and Taurus versus Gravedigger in an all-Chevy matchup, guaranteeing us a Ford and Chevy finale here at the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts. But we still have championship two-wheel drive pulling action to come as well, all on Super Trax. Stay with us. We're back at the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts. In monster truck competition, it'll be a pair of Fords and a pair of Chevys, determining their best representative to advance to a Chevy versus Ford championship dash. The first matchup will pit the Fomoco product. It'll be the First Blood of Rob Fuchs from Woodstock, Illinois. The number 3 qualifier taking on the upset-minded Jim Kramer. Kramer unloaded on the number 1 qualifier. Fred Schaefer in the Barefoot Chevrolet in the first round and unloaded on him big, knocking him out with the truck that qualified number 5 in the field. Starting line reactions and plenty of horsepower had a lot to play in it. But believe me when I tell you, Rob Fuchs can run with the best. An incredibly close matchup. And it's the Bigfoot Ford by the slimmest of margins at the finish line. An incredible race, with Rob Fuchs giving it everything he had in the First Blood Ford. He just fell short by a matter of feet at the finish. But how about Jim Kramer advancing from the bottom half of the field to the final round with the Bigfoot Ford? Incredible. This time around, the Gravedigger of Dennis Anderson will meet up with the truck that finished number 2 in the world last year, Jack Wilman's Taurus Chevrolet. Rob Fuchs and Jim Kramer head back to the pit area. Dennis Anderson concentrates on lining up the radical rear-engine 50 Chevy that seems to have become the single most popular truck in U.S. Auto Association competition just from the beginning of the 1991 season to present. Even with the Taurus team doing so well in the Camel World Championship last year, Dennis Anderson is still the crowd's man to pull for. Forward up to the starting line itself. The graphics that have become world-renowned shine on the side of the early model North Carolinian vehicle. Now the Taurus entry moves to the line. They are staged. The winner will take on Bigfoot here in Worcester. Driving away for the victory. Dennis Anderson may have left the starting line with Wilman, but believe me when I tell you, the Taurus machine drove away from the half-track point on. So it will pit Illinois and Missouri, Ford and Chevrolet in the final round. Two teams that have battled multiple times on the U.S. Auto Association trail, but it will be well worth watching the Bigfoot versus Taurus shootout in the final round. It's all coming up on Super Trax. Stay with us. We're back at the Spectrum in Philadelphia with 2 more championship two-wheel drive pulling machines yet to run on this 135-foot course. So far, the very first man down the track, Wayne Sullivan's Tough Cookie Chevy S10 leads at 134 feet, 10 inches, 2 inches shy of a full pull. But here is the current killer in the category. Wayne Rouse with his original bright yellow 1923 T-Roadster with supercharged Chrysler Hemi power. The next to last driver in this first round of competition. No one's made it to the finish line yet. Easing into the throttle. Rouse now starts to hook up. Incredible! He's right at the finish line. We'll wait for the official numbers, but it's gotta be within inches either way. And here's the number, 134 feet, 11 inches. 1 inch from the 135-foot finish line. Absolutely incredible. And now, for the final driver, it's a matter of do or die. It's going to take, quite simply, a full pull to win this event. He's got to go farther than 134 feet, 11 inches to win the battle. This is the flashback 1989 Chevy S10 of Kris, the home state hitter from Alverton, Pennsylvania. Raises his hands in the cockpit, indicating to the starting line crew he is not touching any control, while they connect the machine to the 40,000-pound mountain of metal behind him. Remember, all measurements are taken from the front of the weight transfer machine, not the front of the vehicle. And right now, Huff has got to pull this sled 134 feet, 11 inches or more to win the event. The wheels come up, almost to the finish line. He's right on the line. We'll have to wait for the numbers on this one, and the crowd knows it's incredibly close. He had to beat 134 feet, 11 inches. Huff pulls 134 feet, 11 and a half inches. Absolutely one of the most incredible pulling battles we have ever witnessed. That will bring us to the championship monster truck finale here at the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts. The driving job of this event has been done by the man in the big blue Ford, Jim Kepner, the original professional monster truck driver, the very first man ever hired full-time by Bob Chandler, the father of the monster truck revolution, to drive from coast to coast all year long. He is lined up against a second-generation driver, Jack Willman Jr., who took over the reins of the Taurus Chevrolet from his father, Jack Sr., last year, and has now become one of the true killers in this sport. The Taurus Chevrolet qualified extremely well in this field, number 2, and has advanced past the whiskey business Chevy of Ken Deppy and the infamous gravedigger of Dennis Anderson. But you saw Kepner defeat the world champion in the first round of driving reactions alone. Then in the semifinal round, he took care of the 1989 Rookie of the Year, Rob Sears, in the First Blood Ford. Now, it's these two killers remaining for all the marbles. The starting line crew clears the area. Now it's man versus man, machine versus machine, Ford and Chevrolet ready to leave the line. The whole shot goes to Taurus. Bigfoot goes airborne. And the Taurus Chevrolet becomes the first machine in 3 seasons to beat Bigfoot at the Centrum here in Massachusetts. On the replay, you can see the starting line reaction was everything for Jack Willman, while Bigfoot went sky high. Willman headed for the finish line and picked up the win by a half a truck length. Incredible leap by Jim Kepner, but a loss nonetheless. Jack Willman wins it for the Chevrolet fans. Willman looking back at the starting line. Apparently there is some concern. The officials think he may have left the starting line too soon and are checking their videotape to see if it's official. And it is official. It was a good green light. Jack Willman wins the event over Bigfoot. It was that close. You could see on our own replay here on Super Trax how much of a hole shot the young man put on Bob Chandler's Bigfoot entry. Jim Kepner tried to chase him down, but it was to no avail. And certainly this kind of performance should help the Taurus team attack that number 2 spot they finished last year in the Camel World Championship, maybe even elevate it to a first-ever World Championship. The crowd certainly appreciative of both drivers' efforts. Some incredible racing here in Worcester. Seen an awful lot of championship pulling action since the U.S. Hobbit Association started sanctioning these events in 1974, but very, very few of those events in 17 years can compare to the one we saw here tonight at the Centrum in Philadelphia. The incredible Flashback Chevrolet, needing a pull of 134 feet 11 inches to win the event, pulls off one of the narrowest margins of victory we have ever witnessed. 1/2 of 1 inch in front of the number 1 driver and 1/2 of 1 inch behind a full pull, but still an absolutely astonishing effort for Kris of Albertson, Pennsylvania. Quite simply, one of the greatest finishes we have ever witnessed in U.S. Hobbit Association Motorsports. On the other hand, the domination of the Taurus Chevrolet continued, beating their arch-rival, the Bigfoot Ford, in a tremendous championship dash in Worcester, Massachusetts at the Centrum, and it was all driver reaction. Watch the near lane. That 1800th of a second hole shot made it virtually impossible for the Bigfoot Ford to make up the difference, and this awesome lead didn't help matters, Eddie. Although the dreaded Barefoot versus Taurus confrontation never came off, don't think for a minute that Jack Wilman had the easy road to the final round. You won the championship dash strictly on your reaction time, guy. It was all hole shot.
Yeah, my on the leave on the line was a lot critical on this short track, and I got a good launch, and it just turned out to my favor, and I'm glad it worked out that way.
I should point out that Kramer made up a lot of distance in the air. Did you see him out of the corner of your eye coming on, or did you think he had it all the way?
No, I seen him out of the corner of my eye, and I knew he was coming on me, and I just kept her down and just tried to keep going.
You did the job. Next to us, Elizabeth Williams, Miss Camel, and the winner's medallion to go with your many already in hand. And I should point out that this won't hurt any in the World Championship points lead as you get the winner's kiss.
Yeah, thanks, and I just want to say special appreciation to my father that makes this possible for me.
And indeed, with this father-son team moving up in the point standings, you can bet you're going to be seeing Taurus in the winner's circle a lot more. Right now, though, beating Bigfoot's all that matters. And beat him he did. An incredible evening. Well, Jack Wilman Jr. may be one of the youngest drivers in the World Championship Monster Truck Tour, but there's no question this kid can drive. Another victory for the Illinois Chevrolet. Thanks for being with us here at the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm Bret Kepner. See you next time. We'll see you at the next U.S. Hobbit Association Championship event on Super Trax.